Ever since I was a little girl, I carried a dream in my heart. While other kids talked about becoming doctors or engineers, I would sit by my window sketching designs, sewing little pieces of fabric together, imagining a day when my own name would shine on the signboard of a fashion house. My dream was clear. I wanted to be a fashion designer. But in my family, dreams didn't matter as much as status. My mother, Margaret, was a woman who measured life in wealth, appearances, and social circles. To her, a girl's ultimate success was marrying into a rich family. Every time I talked about my passion, she would dismiss it with a wave of her hand. Clothes? She would scoff. That's not a career, Emily. That's a hobby. What you need is a rich husband to take care of you. Do you think people in our society will respect you for stitching dresses? I remember the sting of her words, but I kept fighting. I applied to one of the top fashion schools, pouring my heart into my portfolio. I got accepted. For the first time, I felt like my life was about to begin. But the day my acceptance letter arrived, my mother tore it apart in front of me. "You are not going to waste your life chasing childish dreams," she said coldly. "You're going to marry Charles. He comes from money, and his family will secure your future." Tears blurred my vision as I watched my dream shredded into pieces. I begged her, screamed at her, tried to make her understand, but her mind was set. My future, she believed, belonged not to me, but to her plans. That night, I lay awake in my bed, crushed and hopeless. For the first time in my life, I hated my mother. Charles was everything I didn't want. Arrogant, spoiled, and shallow. He only cared about his cars, parties, and the expensive watch on his wrist. He didn't respect me, didn't care about my opinions, and barely listened when I spoke. But my mother adored him. "He'll provide you with everything you need," she insisted. "You'll thank me one day." I didn't thank her. Instead, I felt like a prisoner. The engagement was arranged. My friends tried to cheer me up, telling me Charles was a good catch. But inside, I was dying. I didn't want diamonds or mansions. I wanted freedom, creativity, and the joy of building something with my own hands. During the engagement party, I stood beside Charles as he bragged about his investments, his vacations, his luxury lifestyle. Nobody asked me what I wanted. Nobody even noticed my silence. Except for one moment, Charles leaned close and whispered, "Don't worry, Emily. Once we're married, you won't have to worry about anything. You won't need to work or think. Just look pretty." That was the moment something snapped inside me. I realized, if I married him, I would lose myself completely. I knew I had to make a choice. Obey my mother and live a life of golden cages, or break free and risk everything for my dream. The night before the wedding, I made my decision. I packed a small suitcase with my sketches, my sewing kit, and a few clothes. My heart pounded as I slipped out of the house, leaving behind the life my mother had forced on me. I had no plan, no money, but I had determination. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in the city. The walls were cracked, the roof leaked when it rained, and I barely had enough for food. But it was mine. It was freedom. Days turned into weeks. I took up part-time jobs, waitressing, cleaning offices, even handing out flyers, just to keep the lights on. At night, I sketched designs and sewed clothes, slowly building a small portfolio. It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried from exhaustion. Mornings I woke up hungry because I had skipped dinner to save money. But every struggle fueled my determination. One day, I gathered enough courage to approach a small boutique with my designs. The owner laughed at me at first, dismissing me as just another girl with dreams. But when she saw my sketches, her eyes widened. "These are good," she admitted. "I'll take a few pieces on trial." That was the beginning. The boutique sold out my designs within a week. Customers began asking for more. Word spread. Soon, other shops wanted my work. I worked day and night, my little sewing machine humming like a heartbeat in the silence of my apartment. Within 2 years, I had saved enough to open a small store under my own name, Emily Couture. At first, people mocked me. My mother especially was furious. She refused to attend the opening, telling relatives I was wasting my life in a dirty business. But customers didn't think it was dirty. They loved my work. Slowly, my brand began to shine. 5 years later, Emily Couture was no longer a small shop. It was a recognized fashion label. I had employees, a showroom, and clients from across the city. Fashion magazines began to feature my designs. I was invited to shows, interviews, and panels. I had built an empire with my own 2 hands. Success has a way of changing everything. Suddenly, the same people who once doubted me now wanted to be associated with me. My phone buzzed with invitations. Investors reached out, and my name carried weight. And then one day, my mother walked into my office. I will never forget the look on her face when she saw me sitting behind a polished desk. Employees bustling around, the walls decorated with awards and magazine covers featuring my name, Emily. She whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't know you had achieved all this. I looked at her calmly. For years I had dreamed of this moment. The moment she would realize she couldn't control me anymore. You didn't want me to chase my dream, I said quietly. You wanted me to marry rich, but I didn't need a rich husband. I built my own empire. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't flinch. I had forgiven her, but I would never forget how she tried to bury my passion. That day, she realized the truth. Power doesn't come from marrying into wealth. It comes from building your own. And me, I had proved her wrong in the sweetest way possible.